Hi. In case you missed our lesson yesterday at the start of the year on classifying numbers, this is an opportunity for you to be able to see what the different types are. Unfortunately, you missed out the part in being able to work some of the things out in your own words and working with groups, but this is going to have to do for now. So when we start in algebra, we start with talking about real numbers. Numbers that basically can show up on your calculator. This can be decimals, fractions, whole numbers, all types of things. But there are some specific names for these different types of numbers that we need to understand. So we're going to start with some of the larger groups and work our way down. First one we're going to talk about is natural numbers, otherwise known as counting numbers that start at 1. So if somebody told you to start counting, you'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's basically what a natural number is. Okay? However, as we start to expand the group a little bit, the next group we have is called whole numbers. Now, whole numbers are almost identical to the natural numbers except for one thing. 0 gets included. So now if you were told to start counting with whole numbers, you'd just start at 0, but it still would be 1, 2, 3. You're still not going to get any decimals. You're still not going to get any fractions. So as we work our way down, we get into the integers. It expands again. Not only does it start with and have 0, and 1, 2, and so on, but it also goes into the negative counterparts. So basically now it's any non-fractional, non-decimal type number that goes positive or negative would be considered an integer. So integers would be the largest set, whole numbers, and then natural numbers would be the smallest of these sets, even though they're really, really large. Okay, those then get broken up into another couple of groups called rational and irrational numbers. Rational numbers are numbers that can be expressed as fractions, or if they do have a decimal form, it stops or it repeats. So for instance, the whole numbers we talked about before, the integers, 2, 5, -2, -5 would be included here. But so would numbers like 2/5, which would be like 0.4. Okay, the decimal stops. If I punch that in my calculator, that's what I get. 1/4 would be 0.25. That stops as I get it into the calculator. 1/3 would be 0.33333, and you've probably seen this line before, meaning repeating. But again, if it repeats, it's rational. Okay, these would all be deemed rational numbers, numbers that we can work with a little easier. Now within those, we have terminating decimals. Okay, decimals that stop, like if you have 0.27 to come up for an answer, or our example from above where we had 2/5. That's going to be the same type of idea that we have working here. Okay, so if the decimals stop, it terminates. Sort of like if you get fired from a job, you're terminated, your job stops there. Repeating decimals. Decimals that continue, but their pattern stays the same. If you punch 1 divided by 3 in your calculator and hit enter, you get 0.3333333. It keeps going. Okay, 4/9, you get 0.44444. You might even punch in numbers sometimes where it'll be something that keeps going and going, like if you had 0.27272727. That still repeats, even though the numbers are different. If it continues again, it starts around again and repeats. And then going along with our rational numbers, well, what if they're not a whole number? It can't be turned into a repeating decimal or a fraction. Well, those are called irrational numbers. Numbers that can't be written as a fraction or a decimal, and it never ends or repeats. Pi, that number goes on forever. The pattern never changes. And the same thing happens with a lot of your radicals, except perfect squares. Okay? Let me come back up to rational for a second. If you have something like the square root of 9, okay, that'd be 3. That'd come out nice and even. That'd still be rational. But the square root of 2 comes out as this funky decimal number that keeps going, which makes it irrational. So to kind of bring this together and to look at see how this works, I've made a little chart down here at the bottom. Real numbers are our largest group. That's the title of this whole presentation. That gets divided into rational and irrational numbers. Rational numbers would be your integers, your whole numbers, your natural numbers that we talked about at the start, and also your terminating decimals and fractions, like we talked about up in the chart. Irrational numbers are a really small group of numbers. We don't deal with those as much. Those are your repeating decimals, okay, and your numbers that cannot be written as a fraction. Hope this helps out some. We will be talking about it again as future time goes on, but if you have any questions, let me know.